Hello, everyone. We want to get started. It is now 6 o'clock, so we're gonna get moving. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Raquel Rodriguez. I am the program coordinator here at a Regional Coalition for Housing. We're excited to share with all of you these upcoming homes. That being said, a couple of things to note. We will have 20 minutes at the end of the presentation for a Q&A with our three presenters. We will then if you could please submit your questions as we go along in the Q&A section. We will try to get to all of them tonight, and what we don't get to will be emailed out tomorrow. We ask that all participants are respectful in the chat as we prepare for tonight. We also ask to stay muted throughout the presentations. And lastly, this meeting is being recorded, so it will be available for those who need it after tonight. So tonight's event will have a presentation from the Taylor Morrison team to go over the home and the community details. We will then have a presentation from Mary J. Walker on the homeownership team to guide us through the Arch Homeownership Program, before finishing with a presentation from Larry Steele, who is part of the First Security Bank lending team, where we will learn how to apply to get a home loan. The homes that we will be focusing on tonight are two-bedroom homes at the Woodside development. The price for those are $166,506. HOA dues are $372 per month, with a one-time contribution fee of $744. Okay, now I will pass it on to the Taylor Morrison team so they can go into it a lot more.
Thanks, Raquel. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, good. Yeah, correct. Price of the home is $166,506. HOA dues, $372. And basically what the HOA covers is the exterior maintenance, roof, siding, etc., community insurance, the common areas, landscaping contract, irrigation repairs, and basically all the general landscaping repairs for the community. It does include water and sewer for the condos. There's a total of 170 units here at Woodside. 52 are condos and 118 are townhomes. There's a lot of open spaces, including our flagship park and sitting areas throughout the community. There's trails throughout as well. Some of you might need school information. Schools out here is the Lake Washington School District, Dickerson Elementary, Evergreen Middle School, and East Lake High School. The two units that we're offering, one of them is 5.7, so this is the 303 unit, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,220 square feet. This home is actually completed, and we will be closing this home before year end. The next unit is unit 102. This is a partial ADA unit. This one will close towards more of January, February of 2025. Same 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. This one is 1,367 square feet. We will be having our open house on the 26th and 27th for everybody to come in. We will be walking the unit 303. You can look at all our finishes. We'll go over what is standard, cabinets, countertops. So excited to have everyone over on the 26th and 27th. We will have both units available. However, 10.2 is under construction. So we'll be showing another home just like it so that you can walk in and get a feel of the floor plan. As far as contact information, reach out to me. If I'm away, Josh will be here, but I think Mary Jane sent out my contact information. I'm happy to answer any questions. So, Josh, anything?
Did you cover it?
There you go, Raquel. Back to you.
Well, now I'm going to show the video of the partial ADA unit, and Seiki, go ahead and do your thing.
Sounds good. How am I going to see the video here? Let's see.
It's
Oh, there
not
we
on
go.
the screen.
There-
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, good. So this is the 10.2. This is partial ADA unit. Again, this is a two-bedroom, two bath, total square footage 1367. This home does not show the standard features, so we will wait for the other one to go over that. But as you can see, this is a one-story home. You will have someone above you on this one. The biggest difference here with the partial ADA, the microwave is not on the countertop. It'll sit right where the hood is at there. This is a full ADA model home. It'll have a one-car garage with some space for a workshop. You do have an extra parking out on the driveway or an additional car. And speaking of parking, we do have 28 visitor parking spaces, but just know that there's two parking spots, one in the garage and one in the driveway for you guys. The lighting, everything that you see here is pretty standard. What's changing is going to be the countertops, cabinets, and we'll be able to show you that on the next video. Again, this is showing 303. No, excuse me. This is showing 102. Here we go. So again, a one-car garage. You can see the driveway here, so you're able to park two cars. The one-car garage does have a little more room to have your garbage bins. You can do a bench. If someone does tools, etc. This is a two-story home. As you walk in, you do have a closet as you walk in there. When you go upstairs, as you can see, it's all carpet. That is your standard finish. And you come up to, again, hardwood floors. These are Rev Woods. There are your cabinets. Those are your standard cabinets and appliances. So you're going to get a microwave, a dishwasher, and a stove, electric stove. Nice and open floor plan. You do have a balcony, and that there was a heat pump, which will have cooling and heating. The closet, those are your countertops there. Those are the standard countertops, and that is room for your washer and dryer. The appliances that do not come with the home are the fridge, washer, and dryer. Those are the three appliances that do not come with the home. This is something that you'll have to do after we give you keys. But as you can see, all the lighting is standard. Carpet in the bedrooms. All hardwood floors throughout the main. This is the actual unit that is for sale.
Great. Thank you so much, Seiki and Josh.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, we will get to those questions going on in the chat after all the presenters have gone. So now I'm going to move it along and I will present Mary-Jane Walker from our homeownership team.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Jane Walker, and I administer the Arch Homeownership Program. I'm excited about the opportunity for these homes and hoping that I can clarify some of the general criteria to qualify for an Arch home. I do know that people have very specific situations, so we're going to have our contact information at the end if you have a more specific question, since this will be more of a general overview. So the Arch homeownership program requirements, all Arch owners sign an affordability covenant, and it ensures that the home is sold at an affordable price to income qualified buyers in the future. This covenant will determine the future sales price of the home, and it's based on a formula of an increase over time of ownership that goes with the increase in income for the King County metro area. So as the income increases, that's what the equity increase is on the homes. The homes must also be owner occupied. And so those are the main things about purchasing through Arch that makes it unique. And our eligibility criteria does require that people are income qualified. And so here's the income limits for household size. We also have a requirement for our new construction homes that you're a first-time home buyer. And we use the HUD definition of first-time home buyer, which it basically says you can't have owned a home in the last 3 years. So been on title to a home in the last 3 years. And then it has some other criteria for people who have had a divorce and also only have owned a home with a prior spouse. So there's a couple criteria, and we try to include that um, with our listing so that people can read and see if they fall into that category. And how to apply. So the first step, once you see an Arch home that you want to apply for, is to make sure to see when that deadline is for application and start immediately with getting a pre-approval from a lender. That can be the longest part of the process is working with a lender. So it's nice to have that in advance and know what you can afford. Larry's going to talk a little bit more about that process. But that's the first step. The second step is completing the online interest form and submitting your pre-approval. And you're going to do those things together. And then lastly, attend the open house. And when you're completing the interest form, we have some common questions that come up about how to fill in the different fields. So I'm just going to go over that real quick. Making sure that you provide us with contact information that we can reach you, and we generally communicate via email. So making sure that it's not going to junk and that you're watching for those Arch emails. Your annual income is based on your gross wages or income source prior to taxes. And you're going to want to make sure to include all the income in your household. So both, regardless of who's on the loan, if there's an adult in the household that has income coming in, that will be included in your household gross calculation. So just do your best based on your most recent pay stubs. So if you use the last 90 days, and if you don't get income from an employer, you would just use the last 90 days of whatever income source you do get income from and take an average. And that can sometimes be the easiest way to come up with what your current earnings are. For household size, you will include all current household members. We do require that the household be established prior to application. So if you're anticipating having members move in with you, they wouldn't be counted as part of your household size when you're filling out the interest form. So it's only people currently in the household. And then for this form, we're also going to ask if you live or work in the city of Redmond, and we do verify that. So that can be through a pay stub or a lease, and then you're done. So a little bit of what happens after we get all of the interest forms. We create an applicant list, and staff uses criteria to score each household based on the responses that you provide in your interest form. So just again, making sure that those are as accurate and reflect your current situation. Then we reach out individually to the top scoring applicants, and you're given 48 hours to complete the Arch application. So we do, we know that you've got your pre-approval in hand, and some of the documents that you used to submit to get your pre-approval, we're going to need those documents as well. So plan on having your most recent pay stubs, last year's tax return, um, and a copy of your loan application. That's a big one. And so we give you 48 hours to upload all of those documents. And when a buyer is found, we do notify the applicant list via email. And then the buyer starts the process of owning their first home, which is another whole lengthy process that we won't get into the weeds of in this presentation.
Great. That was it for Mary Jane. Now we're going to pass it on to Larry Steele with First Security Bank. But before we move on, I would like to ask everyone to go ahead and put in your questions in the chat, but don't send them directly to me. I do have two great people managing the chat, so I want to make sure they know what's going on. Thank you. Now, Larry's. Great. All you, Larry.
Okay, thank you for helping with this. And welcome everybody, and hopefully we can find a way to get everybody on this call to the dream of home ownership is what we're all trying to do here. If you could move to the next slide. Actually, I'm going to ask you to move to the loan process slide, which I believe is the third slide. Yes. So this is a very vast process, and it can be very overwhelming to a lot of home buyers, but it's actually really quite simple. Okay. What we need to have a prospect do here is find a competent lender of your choice. Obviously, we would be happy to help any way we can, but finding somebody that can answer your questions and complete a loan application, typically online, which is anywhere from a 5 to 15-minute process for most home buyers. And that establishes the facts of what we need to take this vast landscape of lending and boil it down to your circumstances and what's applicable to your lending circumstances. Okay. So we always recommend a 10-minute loan application, quick counsel of getting to the facts and establishing where you stand from a lending credentials perspective. Okay. If we could go to the next slide, that would be helpful. Thank you for doing that. The facts of everybody's home buying circumstances are going to distill down to very simple variables. It's going to simply boil down to the household income that's verifiable through the IRS system and or the employee, well, both the employee through pay stubs, banks, W-2 forms, that sort of thing. And that is always going to be cross-referenced by the IRS system. And the reason why I bring this point up is sometimes people move here from other parts of the country, the world, other tax systems and so forth. And the only income that we can count for any home buyer from a lending perspective is what is on the IRS grid, what is reported to the IRS system in the United States. That question comes up a lot, and I just want to address this up front. Of course, the other big part of this is having a credit score and credit profile, which is the critical variable for any buyer's credentials. And it's not as intuitive as people think it is. Yes, we want to make sure that the consumer is paying their bills to their creditors on time and efficiently and responsible in that respect. But maybe the counterintuitive part of this is that it's also identifying the person is who they say they are. And please know that's not an accusation I'm making to anybody on this call, but there are people that out there that will try and create a profile that doesn't exist. And this is a critical way of verifying who people are and that who they are, they say they are, that sort of thing. And then, of course, from a household budgeting standpoint, a mortgage payment is going to be calculated by the mortgage itself, property taxes, homeowner association dues, hazard insurance, those things that are applicable to any home ownership. But it has to stay within 49.5% of the household income. Okay, so that, again, very specialized and custom to each individual buying circumstances. One clever part about the ARCH program that was brought up by the team recently, and I'd forgotten about this, is there typically is a requirement for mortgage insurance when a buyer is putting less than 20% down. And because of the language on the contract, and typically the value of these homes is well above what the ARCH buyer is paying for it, the mortgage insurance is not required. It can save hundreds of dollars a month to a consumer putting 3, 5, 10, 15, 20%, up to 20% down. Critical piece of data here, and very helpful to have this pointed out to me, because this is something that we will fight for, to remove any mortgage insurance requirements. Okay, if we can move on to the next slide, that would be helpful. I'm out of sequence here, but that's okay. What I presented here is different than the ARCH income that was shown just a moment ago, because this is the factors for the entire King County on all the loan programs that are available, and the maximum income that can be made to be applicable to first-time home buyer, down payment assistance programs, and so forth. Where this gets complicated and tricky is each program is going to have restrictions up to 60% of the $93,000 number, or at a dual income, 60% of the 106,000. Again, going back to the idea that everybody's situation is going to be different and customized. So going back to the application, buyer credentials, and reviewing this in context of that is critical. I just wanted to show the average income for the various home size, family size, in comparison to income allowed in King County, as an example. Okay. Okay, big topic. Which loan is best for you? This is a conversation that I know that I have about another minute and a half to talk here. We could be spending days talking about, hypothetically, in terms of fixed rates, down payment assistance, adjustable rate, FHA, VA, USDA, so on and so forth. It goes on infinitely, okay? But based on an original application, going back to the point I made a moment ago, it's going to either include or exclude a vast amount of these programs that just simply don't apply to your circumstance. And so what we would like to do is get the application and come back to you and say, okay, based on the credentials and the information we have, let's boil this down to the 1 or 2 or 3 options that make sense in your context. But this is just a full menu of everything that would be available, which, again, is really a waste of time until we get a sense of a narrow view of what you're able to do when you're achieving on your lending side. Okay. I feel the clock moving. I'm trying to move this forward. Next slide, please.
Great. And we have some time, Larry, so take your time.
Okay, we're okay. Again,
Yeah,
I
we're
don't
good.
want to rush this, but I also don't want to leave people like bored to death here either. This application outline really describes the various documents that anybody is going to need to get a mortgage loan anywhere in the United States of America in 2024. We have to see pay stubs. We have to see W-2 forms. We have to see tax returns if they're applicable. And in the ARCH program, I believe they are, for exclusionary reasons. If you've owned a home in the past 3 years, that's evidence of that. If you have claimed interest or taxes in your federal tax return. Self-employment buyers, there's a whole set of criteria for them. And the assets, of course, bank statements, on down the list of information here. Very specific to every home buyer. We typically, once we have an application, we'll send a revised list of what we actually need from the consumer to simplify this dramatically. Okay. I go back to my original point that this is all about customizing and narrowing these vast options to what is applicable to everybody's individual context and really simplifying this for the home buyer. Okay. Next slide, please. This is a finger waving thing, which I don't want to do. But obviously, when somebody is going through the process of buying a new home, there's some things you just don't ever want to do. You don't want to change jobs and go into a different industry, for example, in the process of a home loan. You don't want to go out and buy a new sports car in the middle of trying to afford to buy a new home. And again, I've seen everything there is to see when things happen in these equations and so forth. And it's always important to interact with your lender to talk about what any change you're going to make in that process in context of buying a home. To be clear, once the transaction is closed, the consumer is open to do whatever they choose to do within their reasonable boundaries for themselves. But from the lending process, from the beginning of the ARCH application and loan application to the end of that process, really be disciplined and mindful of making sure you don't do anything erratic in that process, which I'm afraid happens commonly. So that's really it. I go back to the original point here, connect with the lender, get expertise and advice in context of your individual situation. And if you're in the hands of a competent lender, they'll sort through this for you in a matter of minutes, not hours, not days, but minutes. Okay. I think that's all I have. I don't think I can hear you.
I said, thank you, Larry. I am, no, that was great. We really appreciate your expertise in this area, especially as more and more ARCH home buyers are looking to buy.
Yes.
I'm going to jump us over a little bit to the upcoming homes under construction. Can people see my screen? No, I had a feeling.
I see you.
There we go. Great. So we'll go through we have 3 new construction projects coming up in the next 3 months, maybe even a little bit sooner. So please go to our new construction page if you're interested in those. It has more information like household size, income requirements, and all those details that everyone likes to see. Some important dates to keep in mind. Make sure you submit your interest form and pre-approvals by October 28th at 3 p.m. The open house, like Seiki mentioned, is Saturday the 26th and Sunday the 27th from 12 to 4. And the address of a home that we'll be touring is right there. And if you need to reach out to anyone from tonight's event, please note their contact information. And if you want to come by our office to ask some questions, we're available Tuesday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're available outside of those hours, but those are our open office hours. Great. So we do have some time for questions, which is what a lot of us are here for. So let me stop sharing. Okay. The first question is there water line access behind the fridge? I think this is a Seiki question. Seiki, this is a yes. Great.
Yes, there is.
Good. Let's see. Here's another question. What lender do you suggest has the best interest rates? What are the HOA dues? We talked a little bit about that. And then what is the total monthly mortgage? Larry, I'll let you talk a little bit about the monthly mortgage and how that works.
Yes. Well, the monthly mortgage payment is going to be determined by several factors. the interest rate that is available on the given day the program is locked. It's going to be determined by loan amount, obviously. And I think you'll find when you dig into lending, the rates are going to be very similar virtually everywhere you go. That can be different when you get to high loan amounts and jumbo lending and specialized lending and things of that nature. But in the purview of what we're talking about here, you might see a variation of 1/8% interest rate across the board in the market, in terms of the difference in payments, which will boil down to $8 to $10 difference, kind of as the entire market. I would be less worried about that than I would finding a competent person that can handle your questions quickly, efficiently, and accurately to guide you to the right places. That would be a better way to see it. And if you reached out to me directly and wanted to see an Excel spreadsheet of what the cost would look like, I'm happy to do that. It takes less than 5 minutes to do. But that'd probably be a one-on-one contact as opposed to in this format, if that makes sense.
Great. Thank you, Larry. Another question, what about immigration status? On the Arch side, Arch will not ask you for your immigration status. We will also not ask you to disclose it in any way, shape, or form. And now on the lending side, that might look a little different. Larry?
Yes, you're going to have to prove legal, from the lending perspective, to qualify for a home. You have to be legally available and to work in the United States to be eligible for a loan. It's pretty simple. It's a vast number of credentials, but it just has to have evidence of applicable residence in the United States is what's going to be required. H-1B visa, it's dozens and dozens of variations of that, but you're also going to need that for employment oftentimes as well in the context of the IRS grid, as we talked about a moment ago. So.
Okay. Who is the management company for the HOA?
That would be, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, that would be Nova. NOVA Association Management Partners. That's the whole, but it's Nova. If you look up Nova on the Google Nova, you'll get all that information. Again, NOVA.
Thank you, Seiki. Do you have to live or work in Redmond to apply?
Oh, you asking me? So you do not need to live or work in Redmond to apply for this home, but people who do live or work in Redmond will get an extra point on the tiebreaker.
Right. That answers a lot of the questions in the chat. Let's see, is there a list of preferred lenders to be used with one of these homes or any Arch home?
We do have a list of lenders that are, such as Larry, that are familiar with the Arch program and have closed loans with our program. And we can provide that to anybody who reaches out to our office.
And if I might add, it's very important to know if the lender can do the Arch program. As you know, Mary Jane, we just came up with somebody that went all the way to the finish line to only find out that that bank cannot do the Arch program. So it's very important that you ask that question up front. I mean, Larry Steele is here, so we want to make sure we ask that question.
If you use this as first-time home buyer, will this impact you wanting a bigger home later and getting support for down payment assistance?
Most of the down payment assistance programs do have a first-time home buyer requirement. So I think the answer is yes, it will affect your ability to qualify for future DPA unless you've been off of the title of the home for 3 years. Does that seem right, Larry, with like the commission products?
Yes, it does. Yeah, when you go through the process of vetting for any down payment assistance or first-time homebuyer status, you have to clear 3 years of tax returns showing no write-off of interest, real estate taxes, and so forth. That's the That's the standard how we establish first-time home ownership. And let me just expand on that for 1 second. You could have owned a home 7 years ago. As long as you haven't owned the home in the last 3 years, you're considered a first-time home buyer. And that is how that would be analyzed.
Can I have a cosigner for the loan? Or do I need my cosigner to be on title?
That's a very, very interesting question and a very good question. We have discovered recently that as long as we can have a non-occupant co-borrower on the loan and use their income to qualify, but not have them on the title of the property. Okay, so they don't own the home, but they're on the loan. Now, this gets into a conversation with Arch, and as I understand it, that has been vetted with Arch and it's been accepted by Arch. It's a very unusual situation where an individual would take out a mortgage on a property and not have legal entitlement to that property. So it's typically a elderly parent that the younger person is buying with the parent in the high level of trust and financial planning and estate planning. But you can have a cosigner as long as they're willing to take the risk. They don't own the home, but they're on the mortgage and obligated to pay the loan in an event of default. Does that address the question accurately?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is included in the HOA?
So it basically covers the exterior maintenance of the unit of the home, such as roof, siding. It also covers the community insurance, also the common areas, landscaping, irrigation repairs. And again, it covers the water and sewer for this condo. Building insurance as well. Building insurance as well.
Do we need a separate pre-approval for each Arch home we apply for? Or can we use a previously pre-approval from another home?
It's okay to use the same pre-approval as long as it's still, it hasn't expired. And it also needs to be in the amount of the home. So if you are applying for one home that's less expensive, and then you would need to go back to your lender and see if you can still get pre-approved for a higher priced home.
Okay. If my income is from outside of the US, how can I prove my income?
Yeah. You want me to take that? Yeah.
Yes.
If from a lending perspective, independent of the Arch program and so forth, it can't be used, is the blunt answer to that question. So if it's not in the United States and being paid to the United States, created from a lending through conventional FHA, VA, and so forth financing, it's not eligible to be counted. And we run into this all the time, where people are making income overseas and paying tax to Indonesia or whatever country it may be, but don't report income to the IRS system in the United States. It's invisible to us and can't be counted.
So if you do report foreign income on your US tax return,
Yes,
you would be able to count that income.
that is correct.
And that is a situation that some people are in. But if you
Absolutely.
do not report your income on a US tax return, then the bank can't see that income.
That's exactly right. And it goes into this idea of, going back to the housing crisis from 15 years ago, claiming income that can't be verified. And it's a hard stop from a regulatory standpoint on the lending side.
Okay. Good answer, both of you. Does every household member who is over 18 and make income need to be on title? Or can they just submit their financials but not be on title?
Definitely don't need to be on title just because they're an adult in the household. But for Arch qualifying purposes, we will need to see everybody's income information. And then you would discuss with your lender, Larry, you could talk more about like if somebody's going to be on the loan or on title.
Yeah, this is a potentially very complicated topic, okay? Because they're going to be on the loan, which means in any circumstances, if the payments are not being paid, they are responsible and going to be pursued, not only from a credit profile and foreclosure of the home, but affecting credit moving forward. It doesn't take long to think of a hypothetical where a break in a family relationship where somebody owns the property and is not on the loan and the other person's responsible. It can get very, very messy. This is where you would want to get into estate planning and talking to guidance to give you direction. But theoretically, the answer to the question is yes. Okay.
Does one need to be working full-time to check yes to the question asking if they're working in Redmond, or can they be working part-time?
Part-time's fine as long as it's verifiable.
Let's see. We have a pipeline question. Do we have more 3 or 4 bedroom homes? And I'm guessing it's coming up. I think right now, right now
We
we
do.
have a mix.
Yeah.
But definitely as for Woodside in particular, we're gonna have another 3 bedroom, I want to say, Seiki.
We will have one more,
One more.
and that's going to be towards March closing, right? March,
April, May.
April, May. Thank you.
What level of disability do I need to qualify for an ADA unit?
So the criteria for the ADA homes is that you have a provider that can verify that you have a disability, where you would need to utilize the disability features that are in the home. So we don't get into like type of disability, severity of disability. It's just confirming that you would benefit from the accessibility features of the home.
Does the mortgage increase with the property value regardless of income?
Can you say that again?
Yeah. Does the mortgage increase with the property value? So will your mortgage increase over time as your home gets equity?
No.
That's one of the nice things about homeownership
Mhm.
is that the only thing that can be increased are sometimes HOA dues and taxes, but your mortgage payment is fixed.
Let's see. Are there people who speak Spanish that can possibly help with this process? As in, I guess it's, it's a bigger question, right? We have home buyer education courses, not through Arch, but through the commission, and they will, give classes to the home buying process in Spanish. Larry, is there anyone on your team speaking Spanish that could help?
Yeah, we can
look
always
into-
find people that
Okay.
can speak various languages. That's not a problem from our standpoint.
Great. And at Arch, I guess I speak Spanish, so if you need any guidance with the Arch process, you can always reach out to me.
I can also help.
Oh, there we go. Spanish friendly, I like it. Let's see. Is there a minimum income to purchase this home?
There is a minimum income to qualify for a mortgage. So Arch is not the entity that would set the minimum income, but Larry, you could talk maybe a little bit about.
Yeah, it goes back to the same principle here that this cuts both ways. You have to have enough income to qualify for the loan, but you can't make too much money to not be accepted by the Arch program. So that's where everybody's individual situation has to be evaluated in context. But yes, you have to qualify. You have to have enough income to qualify for the mortgage payments, even though they're reduced drastically from open market cost. Yes, you have to have a minimum amount of income to qualify for the loan. Is the answer to that.
Okay. If you're not getting much equity on the home, then how will you be able to afford a bigger home later on if access to first-time payment help is not available?
I mean, I think that is a good point to bring up with homeownership programs that have limited equity. So you would have to do sort of the financial analysis for yourself, thinking about how much you would be saving in monthly payments, um, you know, versus renting, how much the equity would be over time, and determine whether homeownership through the Arch program is something that would be a benefit to you. I would say if if you have the option of purchasing not through the Arch program, your ability to make equity is potentially much better. But if you're looking at the Arch homeownership program instead of renting, I think there's a lot of ways that you can kind of look at what the benefits are and see if it's financially a good decision for your household.
May I draft off that one step further? Everybody has to remember, as a homeowner, you have the ability to write the interest off in the real estate taxes paid on your federal tax return. So that has been cut off at approximately $12,000 a year, but it is for every homeowner, it's a $12,000 credit that they wouldn't have as a renter. So the homeownership piece, you know, it's a little off the topic, but it's an important thing to add to the conversation here because it just adds another virtue of why you want to become a homeowner. So.
And just another point to add, I think purchasing the home and planning to stay there for 5 years is, I think, a good way to think about homeownership through the Arch program. Not that you can't move on sooner, but you do need a little more time in the home to build equity. And so having the home be a place that you're anticipating is really going to meet your needs and that you're planning on staying is a good thing to think about when you're purchasing.
Yeah. Let's see, if approved for a home and once the home is paid off in full, can the residents sell the home for market value?
No, with the Arch program, you would sign a covenant that is has a 50-year expiration. So paying off your mortgage is a great thing because you wouldn't have a housing payment, but it's not going to change the status of your resale agreement with Arch.
Let's see what else we got. Oh, does the home come with a warranty from the builder?
Yes, it does. It comes with a 1-year warranty on just about everything. We would go over that in the new home demonstration tour. But yes, and then we have a 2-year and we have a 10-year structural. So yes.
Okay. I think those are all the questions for tonight. Let's see. Oh, someone just came in. Okay, no questions. Okay, so I'll leave it open for another minute. If you have any inkling questions, go ahead and submit them now before we end for the night. Oh, we just got a question. What is included in the 2 and 10-year home structure warranty?
So the 2-year covers the HVAC system, the electrical system, and is that the plumbing system, correct? That is your 2-year. And again, 10-year is structural. Does that answer the question?
I think so. I think
Okay.
it does.
And we will, and if you do move forward and you are the buyer, we make sure to give you all of that information, of course. So you'll have more than plenty. And if someone really wants to know our warranty, reach out to me and I can send you that. No problem.
Great. Okay, well, we are coming to an end. I want to thank Fakey and Josh and Larry and Mary Jane for allowing us to have these sessions and, you know, bring information to the people that need the most housing. that is it. Thank you to all the participants. Thank you for all the questions and being respectful of the space. I'm giving everyone back about 10 minutes. Everyone have a good rest of your night and hope to talk to some of you soon. Good night.
Okay.
Thank you. Night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.